Ontario has a number of quasi-judicial tribunals that do some of the really heavy lifting to address problems in people's day-to-day lives, dealing with landlord-tenant disputes, disability claims, fire safety, child custody issues, and much more. But reports of massive delays and backlogs have left many people in limbo and raised questions about what's gone wrong. Martin Ragcon is a political columnist at the Toronto Star. He wrote about this recently and he joins us now for more. Welcome.
Thanks.
All right, let's start with this. In December, you wrote, tribunals are supposed to be the one place where justice and access to justice is equal for all, an alternative to high-priced lawyers and endless court dates. Yet, Ontario's frontline administrative tribunals have become dysfunctional on Ford's watch. Dysfunctional in what ways?
The problem is we always talk about justice delayed is justice denied. That's a cliche or a truism, but it's even more true with these tribunals because the whole idea behind these fancy word quasi-judicial is that they're open to everybody and you don't need the high-priced lawyer and you shouldn't have to wait forever, more importantly. So when you have backlogs that can last 10 months or longer, then people give up and it's particularly hard, let's face it, during COVID with the landlord and tenant tribunal. Right? During COVID, there were all kinds of problems. Premier Doug Ford himself, at the very beginning, appealed to landlords, hey, don't throw people out. But you can't just appeal to landlords to have a heart. Not that they're heartless, but you have to have a landlord and tenant tribunal to back it up so people have somewhere to go without going to court or small claims court. And equally, let's not pick on landlords. There's a lot of small landlords who have really unruly or irresponsible tenants. And so I've had emails after that column and before from landlords saying, hey, I've got these folks who haven't paid me rent in 6 months and they've trashed the apartment. How do I evict them without a landlord and tenant tribunal? Same with the social benefits tribunal. Same but different in the sense that if the government is ripping you off and saying, hey, you don't qualify for disability payments, you're stuck waiting for a year or two and you're stuck on regular welfare payments, which are significantly lower. So it's a really big problem that has rendered the system dysfunctional.
All right, I want to pull back those curtains in terms of what's behind the dysfunction.
Yeah. It's hard to believe, but it's a self-inflicted wound. Maybe it's not hard for some people to believe, but it's so counterproductive and so mean-spirited. In the sense that at the very beginning of the Ford reign of Ontario in 2018, remember Doug Ford 1.0? Okay, some people think it's the same. Maybe it's changed, maybe it's not. But back then, here's what they did. They basically purged a lot of the adjudicators in all of these tribunals across Ontario. So also the Environmental Tribunal, the License Appeal Tribunal, which deals with, if you have a claim against your insurance company, you had a bad accident, Human Rights Tribunal. And they purged it. By purging, they didn't throw people on the gallows, but they just wouldn't reappoint people who were coming up, who had been in the system, who had the institutional memory, the learning, because not everyone's a lawyer, and they learned how the system worked, and they purged the system for partisan reasons. And then, so they purged it, and then they paralyzed the system by not reappointing anybody. Even worse than a patronage appointment, maybe, is you just leave it vacant. So a lot of these tribunals, or some of them, the big ones, were at half strength. Some of them were even less than half strength for 2 or 3 years under the first Attorney General, Caroline Mulroney, under the first Doug Ford, and under his first Chief of Staff, Dean French. And it was crazy. And then finally, realizing the mess they created, they they brought in new people, and they tended to be loyal Tories. So they then, I can't say patronized it, but it was a patronage thing. And so it should be merit-based appointments, and instead you have a patronage machine.
All right, I'm gonna ask. You say merit, not political connections here, but I do have to ask: is that just not the way of the world?
It is, but interestingly, it's certainly the way in America, and we see what happens in the Supreme Court and a lot of the lower level courts. But actually, Canada has tried to do things differently at the judicial level. So we have all kinds of committees now that advise and recommend for the federal government for judicial appointments, and also for the provincial government, and in particular for the tribunals. The scholarship and the consensus is that it really was merit-based in this province until the Ford government came to power. And I think they may have learned their lesson a little bit, because under Doug Downey, the new current Attorney General, it's actually better. They've recognized it's a mess. They've tried to bring it back up.
All right, let's talk a little bit about that. There's some sign there. Are there any other hopeful signs that this government's going to fix this?
So a little bit. Early days, but Downey has put in a little bit more money. We're talking $1 million or $2 million here to hire more people to process, to bring down the wait list, and I think they have made more appointments. The appointments at the top are a little more questionable. We'll see what it's like at the granular level in terms of the regular adjudicators, but it's really cause for concern, and it's a tragedy. It's a tragedy for people. You know, we can talk about it a lot about lawyers and so on, but at ground level, for the tenant, for the landlord, for the person who's disabled, this was an unnecessary wound.
Martin, very important story. Thank you so much for this. We're going to keep following this. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jan.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin is made possible through generous philanthropic contributions from viewers like you. Thank you for supporting TVO's journalism.